because of men like you that all must be destroyed. None of those risks have been seen, at least not by anyone who still remains alive. None of those risks have been seen, at least not by anyone who still remains alive.
That's our brain treatment was given to you. You are a robot, that's all you are. Better not change your mind. You just better not.
10,
Better not change your mind. You just better
8,
not.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, hi. I know how to press buttons. Welcome back to another episode of Tangents, where we will go off the rails for the next 2 hours about music gear news. Some very new, some 2 weeks old, because that's how often we do this show. Once every 2 bloody weeks. So, welcome. I'm Andrew from Cleveland, Ohio, in beautiful Ick Studios. With me tonight are my co-hosts, as always, Das Christoph, Jeff, and Justin. We only go by first
Hello.
names because we don't want you guys to stalk us, because the last time that happened, Jeff had to get a restraining order on 50 people, was it?
One of them was Christoph. It was weird.
I know.
Yeah,
That's why you guys are still in separate windows to this day.
Yeah.
So what's going on, guys? What's new and exciting? Christoph, what's going on in your world?
I participated. I got to DJ with Test Department on May Day, and that was very exciting because Test Department is incredible.
Test department.
The thing about Test Department is when you describe what they're doing, it all sounds kind of cliche, but when you experience it, it's so incredibly transcends its components because of its sincerity and heart that it's just brilliant. And I'm really honored to have been part of
That's
that.
awesome. I saw Test Department, I think it was in 1997.
Yeah, not many shows, so that could be.
Yeah.
And it looks like I'm going to be part of the lineup for Abstinence, which is like a 30-year-old industrial band for a performance they're doing in
Oh,
September.
fantastic.
Nice.
Is that going to
Congrats.
be actually outside, or is that going to be online?
I think it's going to be online and filmed in virtual reality 3D with
Oh,
GoPros.
fantastic. Wow, congratulations.
Thanks.
That's awesome. Damn. Jeff, what's new in your world?
I don't know what's on my camera. It's hard for me to see. I built a bunch of sound absorbers, and they're up, and that's exciting. I'm gesturing, doing my best Vanna White at potentially one of them. I don't know. Who could tell?
All right.
So that's up. And then, like a crazy person, I was telling Christoph about this, I guess, yesterday. Like a crazy person, I've been on this pursuit of the sort of like truest definition of the utopian synthesizer setup, like the thing that is actually impossible. But I have convinced myself that I have gotten to the impossible utopian setup by just spending an arm and a leg. So I placed a huge synthesizer order yesterday.
Whoa.
And we'll see. The heart and soul of it that I'm most excited about, though, is that I finally found a place to get a UDO Super 6.
Oh,
Nice.
Which I have been actively trying to purchase since 2019 and have not been able to, but I got one on pre-order from Vintage King because they're
Did
getting
you
a
get
shipment in. So
Did you get the blue one?
I got the blue one.
Yes.
That's it's been a big week.
that's awesome. Well, we look forward. Hopefully, the next show, like the Synth Utopia, will be completed.
Unfortunately, Synth Utopia has to wait until July because UDO, they like go and mine the oscillators
Oh, okay.
by hand at the oscillator mines, and it takes a while to get them. I
The
think.
oscillator mines
Yeah.
of Kessel are difficult at best.
Yeah. It's all those like mithril seeking oscillator dwarves, living in the mountains.
Yeah.
And don't you hold
So-
the record for the Kessel Run?
The Kessel. I don't know. That's my Millennium Falcon on the field.
3.8 oscillator
Parsecs.
blips.
Justin, what's new in your world?
Well, messing around with music a little. Mostly just doing other stuff, busy at work. catching up on my Heisei period kaiju movies.
There you go.
You know, vintage video gaming, yada yada. Was playing around with getting a real PCM drum machine, eyeing the drum tracks, the sequential drum tracks. I found one, but it's a little pricey, and the person running the ad is from California, and they're seemingly out of their mind. So all I'm going to say is like their Reverb ad read like some kind of crazy delusional Carlos Castaneda fiction.
Oh, that's perfect.
So I'm not really sure whether it's safe or not, but we'll see. We'll see how I do.
I kind of love that idea of the Carlos Castaneda. Oh my God, that's great. Well, cool.
Yeah, it's good fun.
I haven't been doing much. I have to leave for Florida tomorrow morning to help my mom move, so that'll be exciting. And other than that, I was messing around with my live setup for my live jams a little bit, and trying to put something together that's more permanent, because every time I'm doing like a live stream, I'm grabbing random equipment and throwing it around and being like, I'll use this and this and this, and then that gets really old really quick because I'm not learning anything when I'm doing it. So I'm setting it up right now, and it's coming along nicely.
Got the Ricky Tinez thing going, and I finally figured out Rick Tinez's setup, right? Because he's got the one side that's the constantly changing, and then the other side that's always his MPC and his laptop.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's, you know, I have the Peak, I have the Hydrasynth, I have the Analog Rhythm, I have the Deluge, of course, the Minotaur that's running through the Avalanche Run pedal, and the Soma pipe, because that thing is just stupid, and I love that one. It's my favorite.
And you did a live stream in the last week, didn't you, Andrew?
I did this just to test it out, and there was some MIDI problems, but I realized that I had a MIDI splitter running through everything, and that might have been causing some hiccups. So
I'll do
I'm
it.
pretty happy with it. It was able to, quickly get things together and get moving pretty well. Just like a little slow, like 45-minute jam, but it was still fun.
Nice.
Yeah, so I was supposed to do Synthfest this weekend, but like I said, I'm going to be in Florida instead, so I'll be missing the 1-year anniversary of Synthfest. It's crazy that we've been doing that for a year.
Congratulations, that's an accomplishment.
It is, and it keeps getting bigger.
I'm sorry that you'll miss it, but it's for a good reason.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it keeps getting bigger. Like when we started, it was Synth Saturday, and it was like, from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. And now it starts on Thursday and goes through Sunday. And then Friday and Saturday nights, it actually splits off into 2 different raid trains because we have that many people participating now. So it's like 24 hours a day. So it's literally like folks from all around the world that do this kind of thing. It's a hell of a lot of fun.
So how does that work, Andrew? Is it moderated? Is somebody I've yet to actually watch?
Yeah, so basically if folks that are interested, there should pop, the stream elements will pop up on there in a little bit about the link to the Golden Shrimp Guild, which is a Discord channel that we run all this through, and folks can sign up for Synthfest, and they put in the preferred times that they want to play and everything like that, and then we let them know what time they're on, and then someone raids into your show, and everyone that's watching goes, raids with them, and then you raid into the next one and stuff like that. So you get this like buildup of like, bunches of people as you're going through the whole thing. Yeah,
it's cool.
It's a lot of fun, and you get to meet new people, and people get to hear your music and stuff like that, and they're like all over the bloody place. Information tray is usually on there as well. I know he's been dealing with having babies and stuff like that, so he's been busy with that. But he does have a Deluge now, so go info tray.
All right, am I the only one here that doesn't have a Deluge?
I don't have a Deluge.
All right, so it's 2 versus 2.
That's why I put you guys over in your own corner over there on the screen. So
that makes sense.
So, but the cool kids over here with our Deluges.
Yeah, if you don't have one, I mean, you're just missing out at this point.
There's no.
Is this going to become like an Amiga, like Atari type of situation where?
Well, it beats like the PC versus Mac arguments.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's I think it's a really cool device. I use it very strangely, but I really like it. I would recommend it to anybody.
I use it for everything. The only thing I haven't used it for so far is sampling, and that's like, I know it's a very powerful sampler, but I've never used it for sampling.
You are correct. It is a very powerful sampler. It is hands down the worst sampler to use that has ever been made as well. So powerful it may be, you have to do like a blood ritual to make it work usually. And yeah, well, I don't recommend it. And then if you have sampled on it, I mean, like, God forbid you want to find that sample again because it is gone. It is gone forever. Have you used the resampling on it?
No, I haven't even gone that far.
So the resampling is, in my mind, actually like one of the more powerful tools in it, and it's actually kind of disappointing because I think they should have played it up more than they did in the manual and in talking about it, because basically. So for anybody who doesn't know this, I guess opinion of one, the Deluge is really good at a lot of things, but it lacks a couple of really critical things. Like it doesn't have a per channel compressor, and so doing sort of like in the device mixing can be a little bit of a hassle. So resampling helps with that a lot. So if you make a line of something, you can resample it, and then you can work with it a little bit better, and get it a little bit more into shape. That one's pretty useful, but actually sampling on it is.
So when you resample, so it does have a global compressor, I'm guessing. It has some kind of effects bus, right? And so you're resampling through that effects bus.
It has. I'm gonna say this, and everybody's gonna be like, "Wow, that's the hackiest shit I've ever heard." So it doesn't really actually have a compressor. It kind of has a compressor. It has this side chain effect, but it has really obscenely high resolution. So you can get to like, I don't know, like 1 gazillionth notes on it. So, hey, everybody, do you want a compressor? Well, here's how you do it. You make 1 bar of kicks that's silent of 1 gazillionth notes, and you put really long tails on them, and then you feed that through, and you resample using that as your side chain, and it just acts like a compressor. That is for sure the hackiest thing you can possibly do, but it does work.
Yeah, that's like the sort of ghost compressor. I've seen people do that. I mean, with other stuff, but that's pretty crazy. I mean, that's a lot of work, but cool.
It's a whole lot of work.
Though, is that these guys update the shit out of this box constantly, so who knows what might be coming down the pike, as far as that's concerned, because you could easily be having a, full compressor and stuff like that in there. There's still a couple of buttons that aren't labeled yet on that thing, so.
Yeah, and
what is the input? I mean, if it had an aux send and a return, I guess you could do something weird with that.
It just has the line input and line output, so it doesn't have any like aux sends or returns or anything like that. It's not like a mixer or anything in there.
Well, no, I know, but I mean, like, we're just spoiled because we've got things that can do like in and out. Like Electron has a lot of that kind of stuff.
I mean, I would imagine down the line you might be able to maybe route one channel into another as far as that for using its compressor. And stuff.
Sure. But I mean, think about it. For what it does, I mean, oh my gosh, it does a lot. And everything I've ever heard come out of it sounds beautiful.
For the price,
so unless
less than for $9.99, you get a a really good sequencer. You get a decent synth. You got a decent sampler, kind of. You've got this master of none machine that just does a lot of things incredibly well. I know, Christoph, that's what you called it a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I take it places. And I've taken it camping, and then I've go sit on a rock and look out at the pretty trees and write some music, and then I bring it home, and I like the sequencer on it, but I like my Pyramid a lot more. So what I'll actually wind up doing then is I'll just play the MIDI out from it into the Pyramid and take its MIDI, and in a lot of cases then use it from the Pyramid. But it's super good.
One of my
for a lot of things.
My favorite things to do with the Deluge is I'll take it outside, like I'll take it in the backyard, or I'll take it down to the lake or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'll use the microphone as an oscillator and put on some headphones and just start noodling with the ambient sounds that are going on around me. I've done a couple of streams where it just like I call it backyard ambience, where I'm just like sitting there with that and just like playing some like
Yep.
really some really smooth little synths in the background, and then like a bird will chirp and I have that going through like a reverb and I'm filtering it up and down and shit like that, and it's so much fun to do that.
That is by far my favorite use of the sampler technology, and it is when you're not actually sampling, but when you're just using it sort of as a live oscillator, like that is very cool.
Information Tray says if it weren't for Deluge, I would be doing no music, making it all right now. Couch synth for the win. Absolutely. So let's.
I'm still in love with my version of Deluge, which is Caustic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're doing some great stuff with Caustic as well.
And a friend of mine just did an incredible track with it that I played last week on my radio show.
That was great.
Just played away with, yeah. But the trick there is, if you use good samples, you can do good stuff with anything that has a sampler in it.
True. Very true.
But I did write to him and found out he did also use an FM synth at least.
Cheater.
Yeah.
That is cheating.
Let's talk some of our news, because we have a bunch of it, because people have been doing shit when we weren't looking. Plus, I did add a couple of stuff because we missed some of the news from last week because we ran out of time because we went off on tangents. Big surprise there. All right, so first thing is the Modal Sculpt SE. Oh, thanks, Klemnica, for hosting.
It's me.
Fuck you.
Good job, guys.
I finally remembered the command.
Look at
I
you.
was sitting here thinking about it. I was like, what is that command? How does that work again? Yes, that's the one.
I like that it's not even showing you watching the show, but you're hosting us at least. But you're also on here, so thanks for that. Thanks for the host.
I think I'm watching. I am watching.
I don't see it. I don't see you on the list. I'm just messing with you.
Well, I am for
Watching
sure
anonymously.
watching.
Maybe I should add you to. Maybe I should add you to the VIP list. Because I think that outside of like some folks on Facebook that are watching us right now, I think that there's some bots and Alex Assimilate and our VIPs, Glacial 23 and Information Tray.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's what I'm showing here. I still don't see you popping up on there. That's great. Anyway, the Modal Sculpt SE. They redesigned it a little bit so you can actually read it, which is nice. Christoph, do you want to post up the links for tonight? Cool, thank you.
Modal Sculpt.
Yeah, it's a nice.
I mean, I like their little stuff. I thought that was a good strategy for Modal, because I mean, they went from making synths that were unobtainium, basically, like was it the 02 and then 01 and then the 08 they made, which are those giant things.
Yeah, it's cute, but I mean,
Yeah.
the original Modal Sculpt was really hard to bloody well read because the interface on there was just kind of janky, to say the least.
Sure.
And
Was that the one that there's two of them, two little ones, right? One of them is like a wavetable synth, and the other's analog VA, I think. But whatever it is, like one came in a kit form, I think, first. Like you could, like a do-it-yourself kind of box. Had like little cardboard panels, like a. So, no, I mean, I applaud them for making micro stuff. It's pretty cool. The fact that it works with MPE out of the box is pretty interesting.
Did you go through and listen to it?
Again,
it
it's
sounds really good.
Yeah. I think Nick Batt loves their little gadget stuff. He loves the filters on them, which I think is kind of interesting.
And you can poly chain up to 4 of them, so you can have like this like super duper machine, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with tiny synths. And I've had a number of tiny synths, and I've loved them right until the point where I fucking hated them all of a sudden. Like I had an OP1 and it was fun until all of a sudden I hated it. And then I sold it for like almost twice as much of what I paid for it.
Yeah. Well, you had the Uno too,
Yes.
which
Excellent
I thought
investment.
sounded. You had the Uno, which I thought sounded pretty pretty nice, pretty tough. Like the analog bass on the
Yeah,
thing
but
was
I
nice.
didn't like it.
And it didn't make the news. I know they released 2 other versions of it, a full scale
Yes.
and then like a mini key. But I remember the interface being a little yuck on the.
Yeah, and I think that, like, you know, 'cause I have like an OPZ. I don't like that.
Yeah, those are so rare, dude. You should be able to sell that for
Yeah,
money
but
too.
it doesn't work. That's a problem. Like the keys will stick now.
Oh,
Like just out of nowhere, it'll just like start like doubling notes and stuff like that whenever it feels like it. And I contacted, like, because I got it through Sweetwater. I'm like, cool, I'll use a Sweetwater warranty that they have. And Sweetwater came back and they're like, yeah, we don't carry it anymore, so we don't honor that warranty.
oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
I'm like, that's kind of shitty.
I think that's kind of the origin of the manufacturer's warranty there.
Well,
because
yeah, because they got rid of all the teenage engineering stuff. They don't carry any of their stuff anymore because they were having like issues with getting repairs done. Apparently, was what the dude was telling me. Yeah.
Really. Plus, like supply chain issues. Remember, they
Oh,
were
yeah.
so backed up. You know.
I have heard that Teenage Engineering's customer support is like borderline aggressively bad.
Yeah, it's like they're well known for having bad customer support.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
reminds
I
me
mean-
of the Pop Copy sketch from the first episode of the
Oh, yeah.
Chappelle Show. You bring in
But
a
that-
disc, tell them we only got Mac. If they say it's Mac, tell them we only got PC. If they say it's got that, tell them we have Linux. If they got that, say the computers are down. You might ask, why do we treat the customers this way?
Because fuck them. That's why.
Yeah. That's great.
That's a very good
Oh, yeah.
sketch.
Yeah, so I mean, I like the idea of tiny synths. You know, I love the idea of being able to take them with me and like mess with them and shit like that. But I don't do that enough. And then there's always something about them that
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know, like the OPZ, the interface was a fun idea, but I don't like it. And then it started doing the key sticking, and then I don't like that either, obviously. You know, and I think that a lot of these like small synths and stuff like that, so much of this, because a lot of them are like VA and everything, it's like you can do that on your phone, you can do that on your iPad, you know. Do you necessarily need those kinds of things? The Modal Sculpt sounds good. It's got MPE support, which is fantastic. But you know, my you know, and I'm gonna sound like a dick here, but my Animoog on my iPad sounds good and also has MPE support.
Sure.
You know, but I mean,
Has
and
anybody
it's apples
used
to
the-
oranges, but you know.
Well, I mean, I think for entry level person who wants to do something with hardware, I think it's perfectly sensible to start small.
Sure.
Or if you have like very constrained space,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're cheap.
Very
I mean,
small
think about how
fingers.
many people where their first synth was the EDP Wasp
Mhm.
just because it was affordable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And if it gets you excited and you know if it's cheap and it's fun and it helps you move along, then it's great.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, for somebody who's got a lot of sense, it might have limited return.
Mhm.
Like of the little synths that I've been interested in, one of the ones and you can't get it. It's the Nunamo Gun or QUN.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they sold out quickly. It was a short run, and yeah, it's definitely VA, but it was a really fully featured synth engine that I thought was really exciting.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think the,
but
the
unavailable.
weirdest one that I had was, remember that Plugiator I had, Andrew?
Oh yeah, that thing was weird.
Yeah, it was that company, Creamware. And Creamware made a bunch of these VAs that came into chassis that looked like the vintage synth. So there's like a Prophet 5 one, there was an ARP Odyssey one, and then they were sold to some company. I forget what the name of the company was. They sold all the Creamware technology, and that company's solution was to put all of the virtual analog brains in this tiny little box that looked like a Waldorf Blofeld, but even smaller, and it had like that matrix on it. And yeah, super weird stuff.
Sonic Core bought Creamware.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Do
I
y'all
feel
watch
bad.
that what's his name? Audio Pills Bad Gear?
Oh yeah, I love that show.
I
Yes.
love that guy.
He's great.
He
love that
just
guy.
did a thing on the Blofeld.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the Blofeld, and I was thinking about it. And his video on the Blofeld, I thought was very funny. His conclusion was like, it's not any good, but I really like it. And It was very funny,
Yeah.
kind of like how he ended up on it.
He's great because he is honest.
Yeah.
Like he did one on Dig Attack, and he's a Dig Attack user, so he's not afraid to self-immolate.
Yeah,
Apparently,
yeah. I got rid of my
Yeah.
Blofeld because I felt the same way that he was talking about with his, with the thing. It's like I don't like it, but it sounds good, but I don't like it. I really did not like that.
Yeah.
That Matrix interface thing just bugged me.
yeah.
Yep.
He is hysterical though. If you're bored, do some back catalog
yeah,
watching.
I've watched all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has the one. I can't remember what synth it was, but it was like a old sampler that he did. That was like, well, not one of the older ones. I would guess probably like early 2000s, but it was just very, very bad. And it was one of the funniest things that I've seen in terms of somebody like talking
Is that-
about music hardware.
Is that the one with the keyboard? Which really, I forget who made it. It was Korg. Or,
I think it was
Was it
Korg.
the Korg? Was it the Monster sample or something like that, or whatever?
You know what? Nick Bat, Sonic State reviewed this thing in like maybe 2007, 2008. He actually did a review of it, which is hysterical.
Nice.
We'll have to find it. But yeah, that one was really funny. It's so weird that they made that thing at all.
They made it, and the reason this video, for anybody who hasn't seen this video, go watch the video because not now, later. This is better, and you
Wait
should
till
watch this
11.
instead.
Yeah.
Watch it later, tomorrow maybe is a good time.
Touch that dial.
It's so funny because the music that he makes with it is so bad. It is just like he cannot, and he's pretty talented. Like actually, oftentimes he'll make music, and I'm like, huh? He's pulled a rabbit out of a hat with this like absolutely dog's ass of a piece of gear, and no, is very bad. He can just not make anything any good with it, and he fights it, and it just is like, and that's the best he can do with it. It was
Well, have you
It's very
noticed
fun.
he redoes his themes track
With the
with whatever gear he's using? It's
Yep.
pretty interesting, and he gets spot on most of the
Mhm.
time. It's pretty cool.
Information Tray says, I think the only little synth I'll keep around is the Volca Beats. The rest are all too limited, in my opinion. My Werkstatt is already retired. I barely use the Mi Blip, and the other two vocals are barely used anymore either. The Volca FM does a great deep chord FM stab, and that's it.
Mhm.
Goat Center CX says the interfacing for all of the Volcas are super dumb. Information Tray says,
Yes.
So Jeff had a Volca FM, and
Yep.
it's a DX7 engine, so you can do a ton with it, even though it's difficult to program, just like a regular DX7. The problem with it is because the Volca doesn't have MIDI in, MIDI out, it's not easy to do Sysex dumping and patch editing, which you desperately need, and that really limits its utility.
absolutely.
Yeah. One thing I will say about the Werkstatt for anybody who has it, I have one and I love it. But the reason that I love it is because I have other Moog gear setting next to it, right? So I have the Matriarch and the DFAM Mother 32 subharmonicon stack. And what I realized was that for me, the Werkstatt it's not a synthesizer. I never use the oscillator in it, hardly ever. It is an LFO, it's a filter, it's our VCA. It's another way to sort of add essentially just like modules to this semi-modular setup. So if you've got any of the other Moog gear and you've got the Werkstatt sitting next to it, if you reconceive of how you think of what the thing is and consider it as utility, you might enjoy it a lot more.
There you go.
Speaking of which, let's talk about another small synth.
Well,
Isn't that the next
the Surge 1.9 is a free plugin synth. Is the next thing that's on the list here.
Oh, you skipped over the Toro, man.
Oh, actually, I removed it from the list.
Oh, there you go.
A
Ciao.
hard skip.
Hard skip.
A hard pass.
Wasn't even worth talking about. Fuck that thing.
Come on, man. Espencroft is the 80s. What's the matter with you?
Right, Justin, do you want to talk about that synth?
not a lot. I just, I don't contribute a ton, and I thought it was pretty cool.
Go, you
I
can
thought,
talk about it. It's okay, sweetie.
All right, good
No,
effort.
no, no.
Good
Look,
effort.
Okay, here's what I like. I have a PPG obsession, and I would say that the combo of analog filters and crusty wavetables is delicious to me.
Yeah.
So I found it attractive. But it looks like, again, like some of the other stuff we're going to talk about today, like the Oxy stuff, but it's even less so. Like, I mean, it looks like a Kickstarter deal, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to make something that was soldered in someone's basement and expect to keep it for the rest of
Well,
my
you never
life.
know. You can always find something cool that's been soldered in
That's
someone's
3
basement.
weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never
I mean,
know.
my cool, like I've soldered together a couple of Euro rack pieces, and 2 of them work.
That's like the vintage computer guys that are like, they shake their heads when someone says that they've recapped their thing or whatever, because they're like, oh, great.
Shit, it's fucked now.
They break out my desoldering tools.
Try it again. Goat Center CX is asking if we already talked about the Dreadbox Typhon. We've not talked about the Typhon before. When the show started, it was already out, and they haven't updated anything on there since we started the show. I don't have a Typhon, but I know everyone who has one absolutely loves it. But yeah, the Surge 1.9 free synth plugin. I don't know if you guys have used Surge or not for synth plugin. Jeff, I know you don't touch that stuff.
That's a computer.
Yep.
That's a spreadsheet machine.
Yep, that's to use for your Excel and your no, that's a tracker, isn't it? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, the Surge 1.9, they're using some of the mutable instruments effects in there now. They added 4 new oscillators. And it might be cliche, but I'm a big fan of mutable instrument stuff. I think everything they do sounds really, really pretty and everything like that. And I love that they open source things and push things out for folks. But I mean, like, it has, it's a free synth plugin. It's open source. Get it. It's kind of a no-brainer.
Well, there's kind of a thread I noticed in this particular show. There's a fair amount of little open sourcey discussions going on. Or as free as in beer rather than speech type of stuff, which we'll get to. But this thing looks cool. I mean, look, again, it's one of those things where, like, if I didn't have a boatload of unneeded plugins, I could see myself picking something like this up,
Oh, yeah. Actitech, thank you for joining us, says it's a very good synth for the money because free is a good synth. Or are you talking about the Typhon? I'm not sure. So, yeah.
But yeah, the Surge looks like it has a semi-modular architecture, so that reminds me of Kurzweil programming.
Absolutely.
And that kind of flexibility, it's you can do a lot with it.
I know that you go gaga for
So that's
Kurzweil.
interesting. I plan to get this and play with it.
Yeah, why not? The price is right.
I'm going to put the money down.
Yeah, I'll toss that down. Actitech was talking about the Typhon, but let's face it, the Surge is what he really meant.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it looks cool. I've used it a little bit. I've not used the update yet. But it's a pretty intuitive synth, and yeah, I like it. So I'll get it. Absolutely. So that's the old news that we still had to cover. So now we're entering into the modern era of things. So UV, is it UV or UVI or whatever you're calling them? UVI, the Super 7 plugin. That thing sounds really cool. Emulates the MKS7. It's like, I love the pad sounds in this thing, and I love the kind of goofy retro programming they put onto the this skeuomorphic stuff, and it just sounds like if you want to put out your synthwave wet dream album, that's the plugin that you use to do it, I think. It's based on the Roland MKS7 Super Quartet that came out in 1986 and sounds like 1986, or what kids nowadays think 1986 sounded like.
Yeah, you just defined.
I did. Yeah, I just defined synthwave, didn't I?
But
yeah. So
I'm a
does
fan,
does the MKS use divide down oscillators?
I think it
I don't know.
didn't it?
Like the string machines did. because there's something about that technology that just frequently sounds incredibly rich. And although there's sometimes a lack of flexibility to those units, they make up for it with sonic character.
Yeah.
And it has like an instant nostalgia, which is what makes it perfect for synthwave.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, as a string machine buff, I divide down. Beautiful, good stuff.
Yeah.
But I will say I'm a longtime UVI customer. They're a French company. Used them for about 5-6 years. They sort of started out like almost like sort of the sample tank world, and they started to get more and more sophisticated. The main problem I have with them now is I buy too much crap, and they update their library it's so profuse that at this point I can't download all my shit because it would kill my hard drive. So I literally need to upgrade it. So you're kind of in that mode where a lot of people who use Contact and some of those big giant sample sets or strings or whatever, like your friend Andy, who does like nothing but, orchestration. For him, like he's probably got huge synth string labs.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I had to literally remove stuff from my hard drive so I could selectively install what UVI stuff I want. So I didn't grab this. Otherwise, I probably would have to check it out. But they have a very common interface for all their stuff, and it's super sensible and super easy to use. And their ability to put together virtual whatever they're doing with sample-based technology, it's the most elegant mixture of that I've ever seen. So.
Glacial 23 says that the MKS7's voice was Juno 106-ish, if he recalls correctly.
DCO.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a decent.
Yeah, so that's and I trust Mr. 23's recalls. But yeah, if those who don't know, the guy's great. Everyone should love Glacial 23. He's my hero.
I love Glacial 23.
Especially when he causes the power outage at NobCon from all of his extreme rocking.
Oh, that was great.
But the roll,
I think he just plugged in his MPC. I think that was the
I
extent.
think it was the circuit. The circuit blew the circuit. But the MKS7 was a weird machine anyway, because it was like this, like had like the different pieces, parts to it, like the drums and the bass, leads, and pads as like individual, like individual timbres on the synth.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it, honestly, until I guess I'd seen them for sale, but I didn't know really anything about them, because this was the time period Roland was making a lot of rack mount whatever nonsense. Right. I mean, good stuff that turned up in house and techno later, but But
it also had that rack mount interface too.
Yeah, like the Super Jupiters, which allegedly sounded as good as or better than a Jupiter 8, but were in a rectangular Evo box with little buttons.
Yeah. Yeah, they did this. Yeah, like, how do you play this thing? But yeah, so that's kind of cool. I'm looking at that one. I missed the introductory price of like $29, but it's like $79 now. But it's still a pretty good price for something that sounds as good as it does. And if I want to make my synthwave album amazingness, then I know what to go and grab for.
Beware, they have a downloader just like Arturia, this other company.
Oh yeah.
So you will get sucked into the
ecosphere of UVI,
addictive drug-like euphoria of all the stuff that they have.
Of course.
Actually, their vintage drum stuff is really. I mean, you know me, I'm a total drum machine fanatic, but their vintage drum stuff is real good.
Nice. Now we can jump.
So I do have to say about synthwave, as a connoisseur. This is the most pretentious word I could apply to it. I don't think a person can actually be a connoisseur of synthwave. That's like being a connoisseur of baloney. As a connoisseur of synthwave, not baloney, and a longtime producer of it, and also somebody who very, very much remembers the 80s. For me, the thing about it is actually not about it being true to the 80s. And I think the stuff that I make is kind of like, is probably different than a lot of synthwave is, for sure. But I don't know. I have these memories from the 80s and being a kid and just like, it was my favorite 30 seconds of a song, or it was like my favorite 10 seconds of a song. It was like, it's this moment
there were places like I watched that movie Tough Turf. I think I talked about it, and the intro to that sounded like it could be a modern synthwave track. And it's just like it's a short intro. It's like maybe 2 minutes long, and you're right. It was totally like the music in the background. And what I think, two things about synthwave I'll say, in my opinion. One is you're absolutely right, but it's like it's kind of morphed. It's kind of like saying that chiptune music is chiptune music. It's gotten so diverse that you can't even say that anymore, right? It's just it's mostly like, Andrew and I are joking, because I'm really old. Is that to me it's like what sort of like maybe millennials who were kids are thinking about what the 80s was like. But that's a beautiful thing, and that's okay because I also love the 80s. And to me, it's like taking a theme and riffing on it and expanding. That's a cool thing. That's not a bad thing.
Oh, real quick, Act Detect, you're cut off. There we go. He just cashed in the more cut off, but there's no synthesizing tonight, so he's cut off. Dumb joke. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, Jeff. I didn't mean to cut you off because I'd like to hear some of your stuff because I haven't. But I also love synthwave. But I will say it's so diverse that there's stuff that I'll hear on playlists, and I'm like, this is horrible. I mean, there's certain things that I can't do. There's certain vocal styles or too much guitars, and I'm like, I can't do this. I like the synth part of synthwave.
Oh, well, hold on. Then you might have heard mine because it isn't very good and it is full of guitars.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, it's mostly the vocals that bother me, and it's just because, but it's because they've taken like EDM vocals and they've transplanted it into synthwave.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. And it's
I
because
for sure do. I don't know if you've listened to Dance with the Dead. Dance with the Dead is like, I love them. I think I would like to be doing sort of a thing that feels like Dance with the Dead, but kind of happy John Carpenter. I don't even know if that's a thing. It doesn't make sense, but it works in my head. I don't know. But yeah, I definitely hear you. Like the part where it started to become, I really was into a lot of, not necessarily the vaporwave stuff, because I thought a lot of it was like very interesting. But some of the ideas with vaporwave where they were like, let's take this 10 seconds, and how do we take this 10 seconds and let's make a 3-minute song out of that? Like the best 15 seconds or 10 seconds of this song that you remember, but you don't remember right. You just have like nostalgia brain for 10 seconds. How do you turn that into an entire song?
right.
That ethos that was sort of established in some of the vaporwave music, I thought was pretty interesting, and that's the thing that I got into with synthwave. But there is a ton of it that is bad. Mine is probably in the. I'm not afraid to say, like, mine is probably in that group.
I don't know.
But
All the
thing that you mentioned.
synthwave I produced was just a recreation of the Time Rider soundtrack.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Because Time Machine motorcycle, blonde hair, beautiful man.
The Adventures of Kyle Swan.
And Lyle
It's a great
Swan.
movie.
Thank you very much.
Love that soundtrack.
Lyle
I love
Swan.
That movie. I know what you're talking about.
But that movie is nothing. I mean, that's what in my mind. That's like every synthwave kid watched that movie that was on like late night TV and said, "I want to make music like that." And then they just made Time Rider soundtracks for the first 5 years of synthwave.
Yeah.
So now you've got my gray cell stimulated, Jeff, because I also have listened to vaporwave. And I'm really going to show my age here, but my daughter listens to vaporwave. But here's the thing about it: is that it's high concept, and that's kind of new, right? Because you've got this aesthetics model, and this sort of weird, melancholy for like shopping malls, like in. It's just very weird, and the fact that they'll take sort of R&B music that you might hear in a shopping mall in 1992 and slow it down to like 40 BPM. That's a weird idea, man. Like, who came up with that? So,
and then blend it with the Weather Channel's greatest hits.
Right?
Yeah. And while that seems unlistenable, some of it really works. And there's a band called Windows 96.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I don't listen to it all day, but I think it's high concept and it's cool. So I like it.
Yep.
So if anybody's listening to this in the future, or if you're looking for a VST that's free, that's really great for making synthwave, the Yuhei Tyrell N6
Yes.
is strongly recommended. And one of the big synthwave artists, that's her main synth.
And if you have access to IBM's Watson, you should be able to run it with no problems. It's like 128 gigs of RAM per instance
Fuck me.
of N6, which is very good synth. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, Yuhei does a lot of circuit modeling, which gives them a lot of accuracy, but it is hard on a machine.
Oh
so if you
man,
can freeze your tracks, do that.
that used to be my test for a DAW when I was testing DAWs. Is I would take 8 instances of Diva in Divine mode just to see how horrible.
Oh my God. All right, moving on here. iConnectivity's Audio 4C audio and MIDI interface came out very recently. I have a iConnectivity IO MIDI 10 here that works great because I don't have to think about it. I like things like that I don't have to think about. So I do like the iConnectivity idea of, you set it and forget it kind of thing. This thing is nice. It's USB-C audio interface. Yay. It has MIDI as well. Yay. But it also will plug into anything. So it will work with iOS, iPad OS, Android devices, all that kind of stuff. So it's fully class compliant as far as that kind of thing is concerned. Also, yay. It's got a USB host on there for other devices. It runs the somewhat schlocky Oracle app, but we can forgive him for that. Hopefully Rodney Orpheus isn't listening right now because he designed that. And yeah, I mean,
awkward.
Yeah, that's our relationship really. But it's a really cool little guy. The price on that is really good for an audio interface. It's $400 for a nice little 4-channel in, 4-channel out audio interface with MIDI.
But it's got some cool, weird features, like some of the ability to share MIDI and audio through these different.
Yeah, that's the thing
platforms.
is you can plug in your iPad in there with your computer and stuff like that, and you can share the MIDI between them and everything, which I think is just fantastic.
I like that it has 4 in and 4 out. I'm sick of seeing interfaces that are 2 in, 2 out, or 4 in, 2 out. You need 4 of both, and I'm sick of people not put enough. Just like, if it doesn't have 4, it's not really more than what I have inside. So I'm buying an upgrade because I need more, and the price jump between 2 and 4 is way too high. So this is the correct amount for a starter pack. So good job.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The USB host, I think, what does it say about that? Because I think it'll do like a fairly large amount of devices, 8 USB MIDI compliant devices through the USB host, which is pretty slick. That's a good chunk of gear. I mean, that's more than what you have for your audio inputs, but I mean, it's still kind of cool.
I have an iConnectivity Mio XL, and it's a MIDI interface with, I was just looking, I think it's got like 10 or 12 MIDI, like DIN MIDI connections on it, and 1 gazillion USB MIDI connections on it. And it is 1 gazillion. That is the actual number I counted. And I had a Motu device that I got, and it never worked right. And then Motu replaced it. And then Motu is like, weird. I don't know why it doesn't work right. And finally Sweetwater was like, look, this thing is dumb. Just send it back. Because I'd had it for like a year. And they're like, it's dumb. Just send it back.
Which device was that?
It was the biggest Motu MIDI device.
I had the same one, and mine did the same thing. It wouldn't work right.
It was
garbage.
I mean, it was just like terrible. Yeah. And so Sweetwater was like, "We're sorry, you shouldn't have bought this. Maybe it shouldn't even exist. I don't know. Just send it back. We'll replace it." So I got this Mio XL thing, and it's really good. Yeah. And this company is, I don't know anything about them. The software, I don't know if it's the same software as the one that came with this, but it is not beautiful software.
Oracle, yeah.
It works.
Yep.
But it is not beautiful software, and it is not what you would broadly classify as intuitive, but they seem to be doing pretty good work. Yeah. So I'm not in the market for a MIDI or for a audio interface, but I think if I were, I would probably consider this one. Like based on my experience with this USB, or not USB MIDI hub that I have from them, and I have like a relatively complicated MIDI hub where I want some ends to go to some other ones, but not other, like being able to like really do pretty complex routing is one of the things that I thought like very good at. And I've been really surprised at how stable and functional the thing is. So I would definitely consider them for an audio interface.
So iConnectivity, they're well known for doing that, like really good advanced MIDI routing in their MIDI devices and stuff like that. And I think that that's one of the strong things that they have. The other thing that they do, one of the other products that they have, which is really slick, is the Play Audio 12 is the other thing that they put out that's amazing. And the Play Audio 12 is handy as hell if you are playing live with backing tracks. And what you do is if you have two computers and you plug them into this thing and you have everything running, your backing tracks on a DAW or whatever, they sync up automatically. So if a computer takes a shit, the other one takes over instantly.
Oh, I remember seeing that. Yeah.
That's super important for live performers.
Absolutely, especially in the genres of music that we tend to play. The thing is like $600, and it's flawless. I've seen them do this where like they were literally I saw Rodney showing this thing off, and he'll just like walk up to it and just unplug one of the computers like right from the thing, and the other one just kicks right in, and you don't even hear any drops or anything like that.
That's cool.
And it's got like 12 outputs on the thing. So you can even split out those tracks individually and stuff like that. But so you can, if you're doing like an Ableton setup or something like that, you can use this. If you have two computers and they're both running Ableton, and they're just like, they just synchronize flawlessly, or any other like DAW Studio One or whatever. But clever as hell. I've not seen anything else like that in that kind of price category, outside of like the big, huge things like the arena people use and stuff like that, but not for just like synth band nerds like us. But this thing is fantastic. Yeah. But that's the other thing that they make. So it's like they do some really, really clever things that no one else is doing.
Oh, it's fantastic. Because that is one of those arena features. Like Depeche Mode has it, and Pet Shop Boys has it, and I can tell you who doesn't have it: Frontline Assembly, House Job. Who else have we seen go dead on stage?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Missile Command.
Me. It's been me. It's me. I've done that.
I remember when when Missile Command played with the most appropriate band Missile Command could ever play with, Bile. I know Christoph's like, yes. We were doing a cover of The Cure's From the Edge of the Deep Green Sea, and at some point the backing track just crapped out. No idea what the fuck happened, and we kept on playing what we were playing. We just kind of like looped ourselves, and then Lori and Dawn just like went off on this little like, I don't even know, this like crazy operatic thing, and then they kicked back in like right on the beat, and we were just kept on moving like nothing happened. But Jesus, it scared the shit out of me. So that would have been handy for that moment.
I was very brave to soldier on there, Andrew. That was
well, we're pros.
I sort of like seek out. I don't seek out. They seek me out. I didn't choose the thug life. It chose me. I wind up playing in these very strange bands, and so I have this friend Camden that I've been playing music with for a long time, and we're both like lifelong metalheads. And so we started making this music that was kind of like synthwave meets electro meets 1988 Swedish death metal. This is an unwise combination, and we knew that this was an unwise combination when we undertook it, but we did it anyway. And so we were playing this show. This was actually this was one of the things that, I don't know, this is several years ago. Christoph, you might remember this. This is several years ago. This was like what really made me be like, screw the computer. The computer goes out the window. I was in the midst of a set, and we had, there's the synthesizer stuff that was happening that was kind of the backing track that you're describing. And then there was live guitars, and then there was live vocals, which was like, I don't know, like we'd like stuff our foot in a blender and shout or something, as what it sounded like. We just, like shout at people. And we were doing this. And in the middle of this cacophony, the computer's just like, meh, and it just goes out. And what's left is us going like, weedy, 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 on the guitar and like shouting, and it loses all the effect. Everything loses the effect at this point. When you're la, 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 into the microphone, and you've got, you're relying on boom, 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 boom to behind you, and then all of a sudden you're left with and you're doing it is not a good look for anybody. It's definitely not a good look for the two of us. And yeah, so I feel you on that. I definitely would like something like that. And for $600, I can for sure feel like that's worth it in just the embarrassment savings alone.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean,
So Architect writes, when everything went out, your clothes also disappeared?
It was sort of like one of those moments where you're like, am I wearing pants here? No. Fortunately, clothes were there, but it was it was sort of bad dream life when it happened.
Your pants were not on the backing track.
No, the pants were not on the backing track. That would be crazy though if you could do that, if just like sample your pants.
Right?
Oh my gosh. I think, Andrew, the worst that's happened to us live is we've gotten out of sync a couple times.
Yeah.
Which usually my fault because I would stop my sequencer.
Yeah, you stopped your sequencer, and then I ended up having to like really creatively like make it look like I just hit stop on everybody's sequencer just to the beat, and then pop it back in. I've got to the point where I was able to tap it so quick no one knew I did it, except all of a sudden you were back on time.
I think it was the friggin' mono machine that made me do that, and there was the key was just in the wrong place, and I would accidentally swipe it.
Yeah. No, it was the rhythm because the rhythm was always off.
Was it the rhythm?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe it was the rhythm that I kept shutting
Because I remember the
off.
first time that happened was when we opened for Covenant.
Yeah.
And that's when I had to help out Daniel Meyer because he broke his computer. I'm like, how many times do I have to do tech support for for other bands?
I do remember that. You did that more than once.
Yeah, because I did that
Whenever we played with other bands, you were like, here, let me help you with your audio interface.
Yeah, here, let me get this set up for you. This is how this works. Because I did that with Cold Link too. I had to do that.
Yeah.
And then, I had to learn keyboard lines for interface because their keyboard player got sick, so I had to.
Oh, that was a good show.
That was
cool.
I didn't. That's when I realized I actually could play keys a little bit because I had 5 days to learn the interface set.
You're so self-deprecating.
And he's just like, I'm like, just send me what key everything is in, and I'll figure it out from there. Okay.
You were playing the analog 4 at that show, weren't you?
Yeah, that was fun.
Analog keys.
Yeah, the analog keys.
Good choice, man.
Yeah, I wanted something light. Because the Prophet 6 is not light. So.
No.
Hello, DeVolta. Thanks for joining us tonight. So, Christoph, this one's for you. Ocean Swift Synthesis just released all of their software synths for Windows for free. I know we were diving into the Mac world a little bit, but now you got this. They're discontinuing everything, apparently. So.
But I mean, this was another case where I'm like, cool, right? I mean, it's like, that's amazing. Normally when these places go out of business, it's like gone.
Right.
Yeah. Like it's wares only. Yeah.
Yeah, like the abandonware doesn't get supported. Like they're not going to give it away. Just no one can have it now.
Right.
So this is better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool.
Did you check out those synths? I've never heard of these things, but I watched a couple videos.
That's why they're going out of business, right?
Yeah.
Well, sure, but they're not bad. They're pretty cool. Like they're mixing additive and wavetable. They're doing some cool stuff. Like.
Yeah, they definitely sound. They sound nice. I don't have anything that can run it really because I don't like the streaming computer's Windows, but I don't use it for. I don't have. I mean, I can load the synths into OBS, but I can't really do anything once I do that. So.
Yeah.
But I mean, hats off to them for doing the noble thing and putting it out there for the world.
Yeah,
that was great, and they're still selling sample banks, and they'll be able to sell that without further development.
Yeah. Absolutely. So yeah, and I think that's talking about like the abandonware and stuff like that we were talking about a few weeks ago. It's that's something. Let's see, the OXI Instruments 1 sequencer. that Indiegogo'd. Jeff, you posted this one, and I was watching
Yeah.
Loopup's video about this thing, and it looks like a extension of the sequencer on our old friend the Deluge.
Yeah, it looks kind of like that. And then there's the oh man, my brain's gone blank. Who makes the Medusa?
That would be Polyend.
They have the Seek,
Yes.
which also it reminds me of that a little bit as well. And it seems like a pretty cool device, especially if you have a setup that sort of integrates both modular and sort of rated synthesizers. But I dig it with the the lots of 1 gazillion tiny pads for the sequencer setup like that. I think it's pretty cool. I like the physical piano roll. So if I were in the market for a sequencer, I would definitely be looking at it. And I looked earlier today, and they had absolutely, I'm going to pull it up now, they had blown through their goal for Indiegogo. People are really excited about this thing, and it looks like they are currently at 933% funded.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, people are hyped for it, which is cool. They've raised 224,000 of their 24,000 goal. There's 386 backers and still 29 days left.
Yeah, they hit $100,000 in 3 hours.
Yeah, it's
You know,
I think it's pretty cool.
crazy.
Yeah, and
We talked about this before, Andrew, is the lack of maturity with a lot of these sequencers.
Yeah.
You know? Or it's always missing that one thing that's like, but this thing seems pretty full featured. It seems pretty intense.
The going price right now for it is €530 during the Indiegogo. It's going to be €699, so it's about $636 in human money. I'm just kidding. In U.S. dollars. I give you 3 of your Earth hours. So it's not that cheap, but it's also like it's pretty powerful. One of the things it has on it that I really wish that the Deluge would do is chord mode.
Yep.
Because I'm a shit player, so having chord mode is sexy.
That's one of the things that I really like about the Pyramid that like has kept me on the Pyramid. And I've looked at there's 2 other sequencers that I've really been interested in. One is the Social Entropy Engine, which is like gone, just vanished years ago. And then the other one is the Circlon, which is of course like impossible to get. Yeah. But it seems like there's like 2 ways that the physical design language goes between the 2 of them. There's the Deluge Seek OXI1, like whole bunch of buttons. Here's the physical piano roll version of it, and then the other way of it is the the Circlon Engine Pyramid way. And I've found this. I don't know if this is by design, if there's some reason behind this or what it is, but the Pyramid, the Circlon, and the Engine all have things like they have chord mode. They have like the Pyramid, for instance, has like really robust, very nicely implemented Euclidean sequencing. And I know that they're trying to bring that to the Deluge, but everything I've seen about it, like I think it will be good. I don't want to like poo-poo it at all in the Deluge. Like I think it'll be exciting there. The way the Pyramid does it is just remarkable. It's super strong, and the way that it implements chords and scales and everything, and it feels like there's this kind of bifurcation that happens between the 2 types, the 2 design languages, where you have like either the physical version of the piano roll, and then you seem to like miss some of those features, or you have this device that is sort of, I don't know, much less tactile almost in some ways, where you don't have that physical piano roll and everything in place, where you can just like, boo, 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 and put all your notes in. And I would like to see something like that too, though, on it. Just feeling like there's so much opportunity there for composition versus performance.
Honestly, I still really like the Electron workflow, and I know it's basically a TR, X sort of step sequencer. But to me, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And, the idea too that you can hit a step and then do whatever you want per step that it'll control is pretty slick.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, I've been looking for the perfect sequencer and have not found it yet. This one looks pretty good though.
Yeah.
I bought and sold more sequencers than I care to admit. Because I couldn't click with the interfaces for a lot of them, honestly. I'm really picky.
I can relate.
Yeah, like I if anyone's looking for a Torres squid, I've been trying to sell one for a while. That's probably like the worst one ever.
Well, that's some good
I know,
salesmanship.
right? I'm a shit salesman.
Yeah, I'm interested. What do you want
I'm
for
interested. Why do you hate it so much?
it? tell me.
Yeah,
more.
I know, right?
Have you tried the Scorp
I
pyramid?
have not. I look at it and I don't understand it.
It's very funny. The Scorp pyramid has a learning curve that is a straight up cliff.
Great.
It's just like there's no curve whatsoever.
I hate it already.
And I think that's very intimidating to people. But here's the thing that is not like self-evident from it: the cliff is like 10 feet tall. You just hit it and boom. There's like it does not give a millimeter when you hit it. Like it has its own way of doing everything. But the minute that you understand like the first piece of it, you get the whole thing. Which is, it's a very bizarre learning experience because I haven't had any other device for music making that has been anything like it. It's just like, it's completely opaque until it's completely transparent. And then like, once you get it, you totally get it. And that's all there is to it. And it takes, I don't know, it probably takes 10 or 20 hours of just like fumbling in the dark. But when you get it, man, I could not at this point. Like I would consider a Circlon still, but I mean, I can do things with this thing that I can't even conceive of doing in Ableton or anything else like that. Like I couldn't even get there with them. So I definitely like it, but it does not make sense up front. And then I think, because it's a French company, Scorp, and I think that there are some, not like translation issues, they're more like idiomatic issues. So it uses this thing that, what do they call it? Track and sequence. Tracks are not tracks. They're clips, like they're like Ableton clips. And so it has a barrier too that's also like what things are called with the pyramid is not what things are called anywhere else in the whole world.
Handy.
Yeah, it's really convenient, honestly.
It sounds almost as like opaque as the Octatrack, which kind of
I have not used an
took me
Octatrack,
like
but
a
I
year to
did.
figure out.
I did amidst my synthesizer purchasing spree, I did pick up an analog rhythm, so I'm assuming I'll have to figure out some of that other electron opacity.
The thing with the Octatrack is it is unlike any of the other Electron gear as far as its interface is concerned. Everything else that Electron makes, once you figure out one piece of gear, you got it across the board. But the Octatrack is in its own little world.
Yeah. I mean, other than maybe the interface and the sequencer, as soon as you scratch the surface at all in Octatrack, it's like, I don't even know. It's crazy. Yeah.
Crazy pants.
I mean, I was so intimidated watching you work with it that I was like, no, I'll just stick with my rhythm.
Yeah. Let's see on the chat. Chaos Engine says, I love my MPC 500. I only use that as a 48-track sequencer. I never upgraded the RAM. You can get them dirt cheap now if you're just getting into hardware sequencers.
Yeah, I have one. It's good. I think it's small. And I know Glacial 23 doesn't like them very much. I think he's got the 1000 that he gigs with. I mean, I have a stack full of vintage MPCs, so I can't really talk, but I think the 500 is actually pretty cool.
Yes. Glacial 23 says the MIDI box SEQ's learning curve is similarly steep, as Actitect is calling it the learning wall. Chaos Engine, I have an old Roland MC300 micro composer. I don't use that as a sequencer, but I can save patches from my Groovebox on a floppy via MIDI dump, cheaper than using smart media cards.
I think Orbital used to use that thing, and I hear it's absolutely impossible to sequence with.
M.Snake says that Jeff should do some pyramid tutorial videos.
Yeah.
Close the gap.
Mind the gap.
Yes. There you go, Jeff. Now you got your streaming career set up. You're welcome.
I do.
Yeah. You thought you didn't have anything.
You just need to be able to toggle between the screen camera and the overhead.
I'll have you know that I can do that. And you want to know what else? I am a fully certified professional synth streamer. I have fake plants at the
Look
ready.
at you.
Yes. Just don't do like Cuckoo and take one of those vanity mirrors so you can see his face when he's talking.
I only have succulents.
I would never do that to anybody. I would never put my face in a video. And
Here we
I
are.
have dragons in the studio, which I think honestly in like late 2021, if I started my YouTube streaming career or just video career, you're going to see every synthesizer video coming up with some dragons because it's just the next big thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm a kaiju person, and I'm starting to come over to dragons. So
I tend to put like Pokey, like Gumby, Gumby's Pokey Pal, in the videos. Maybe a random
I think
penis or something like that.
Here, actually.
Oh, there you go.
It's
Nice.
camera, man. Come on.
Hell yeah. But yeah. 2 hemp rope dragons from a festival. That sounds like a rap song.
So what are the best toys for playing synthesizers next to? That's an important
It is,
question.
besides succulents, which aren't really toys or plants, but
No.
I mean, I have a Millennium Falcon. I also have I have Funkos of the Pet Shop Boys. And
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I have a Pyraminx in the other room. So
Christoph has his
Christoph's
Rubik's Cube.
giving me anxiety. He's messing it up. It was right, and now it isn't.
It never will be.
It's a law of nature that that's not real. Once you mess up a Rubik's Cube, it doesn't ever go back together.
victory.
That's what that means, victory.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
That's a ticket.
that's it.
Actually, you can learn how to solve these. It's just rote memorization.
No, some people can learn to solve them. I feel fairly good that I am not one of them.
I have a Rubik's Cube over here. It's a Moog one, so it has all the different wave shapes on it instead.
Awesome.
That's delightful.
I got it when I was at Moog in beautiful Asheville, North Carolina.
Here, look, I moved all the centers.
Oh,
nice.
Look at you, tough guy. You're just peeling the stickers off and putting them on real quick. It's cool.
He is. I saw him. I saw him do it. He had his little X-Acto knife out and everything.
You could just do the brute force method where you break it against the table and just take them.
Chaos Engine,
I
you
was
just have I'm imagining your studio is just like full of insanity. With your Matt Trackers Goliath F1 car from Mask, Mobile Armored Strike Command, for those not knowing, and a Battle Cat with no armor.
Yeah.
A battle cat.
someday I will
with no
stream
armor. That is a
this.
deep
I know,
reference.
right?
This is very
Yes. Who doesn't have a Battle Cat? I don't have some Lego down here. Lego Bricks, the proper title.
I've
I've
got some.
techniques.
There you go.
Oh, nice.
good. Oh, nice.
Got some Gundam snap together models. Bunch of Godzillas. Oh, Voltron. I got Voltron.
Oh, hey.
And a,
Planetary Defender.
and a Dalek and a Tauntaun. Come on.
So sadly, my studio actually is also where I have to store all my tools because I'm limited on space. So I've got all my socket sets and power tools behind me, and I don't use them for music or anything. But it's just Yeah,
Some
it's just that it
industrial
has to be
musician
that
you
or it
are.
has to be the combination.
Some
What?
industrial musician you are.
Yeah, I know. So there's a lot of craftsmen in my
I
studio.
expect your next album to come with a deck.
Well, that's what I'll be doing in August. I'll be playing Power Tool straps.
Oh, good.
For real.
Very good.
Yeah. And there's a rule: no sparks.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. You can still hammer on things, and
Yeah.
you can.
No, because like a lot of people, they just focus on the sparks instead of the noise. The idea is here now, focus on what you're doing.
Yes, that's a good idea. Generally,
More noise.
when power tools are involved, you want to focus on what you're doing and not on the pretty sparks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the BBC released a whole big damn pile of sound effects.
They did.
sure did.
16,000 sound effects for free download.
It's probably enough.
Yeah.
For at least for a week or two.
Right.
It depends. It's 16,000, but not the one sound you're looking for.
Was this like the radiophonic workshop type stuff? Is that what
These
stuff
are all
is?
like I
they're-
think these look like they're like hip hip hooray 50 people 20 to 30 years old. Cock-a-doodle-doo ship siren sounded. South American parrot talking and screeching. So it just sounds like it's literally like found sounds and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's some Foley in there. They released this and they sort of update it occasionally, and they update the UI for the system, here and there. But it's definitely interesting for musicians. It's also very interesting for people who are doing sound for picture.
Mm-hmm.
Because the quality, I don't know if you guys have gotten in there and downloaded anything. The quality of these recordings is, it's just like remarkably high. And so you listen to one of them, and they have like that classic like can open like crack sound, and just all this sort of stuff that has been recorded like meticulously. Like you're the guy that spends 5 hours setting up to record the pop top on the can opening and get like the absolute ideal pop top sound. So some of it is that, and some of it is the found sounds, and some of it is some sort of like Foley work that's been done. It's an interesting thing to go through too, just from the perspective of like what sounds did people think they needed?
Yeah.
I always get kind of like a kick out of that, where you find that, I don't know, there's like you'll find something that's like slapping a rubber chicken onto a cheesecake or something like that. Like, what exactly did you need that for? And you'll find there, you don't have to look far before you find stuff that's not a real one that I found.
yeah.
If you find it in there, let me know. But this is just like hyper specific and particularly strange.
Wow. Be great to sit there and watch like old BBC back catalog sitcoms to try to find the Foley noises, right? I'm watching Good Neighbors, just over and over till my eyes bleed so I can hear the chicken on the cheesecake.
Yes.
I was speaking of, you spoke briefly of the radiophonic workshop. I watched over the weekend the documentary Sisters with Transistors.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. Now you can only get it on a streaming, a small New York-based streaming company in the United States, at least. If you go to sisterswithtransistors.com, you can look it up. But it kind of like goes. It's like the history of synthesizers, like women in synthesizers. And you've got like Clara Rockmore in there. You got Daphne Oram, who she's just amazing what she was doing with like weird like painting waveforms on glass or like on like film and running it through things and making it make synthesizer noises. B.B. Baran, who was one of the Barans who made the Forbidden Planet soundtrack.
Yeah. Was Delia Derbyshire?
Yeah,
in there?
Delia Derbyshire's in there. Pauline Oliveros.
Love her.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Oh, I love her. Yeah, there's a whole documentary just about her. Actually.
Marianne Amacher, Elaine Radig, Suzanne Ciani, which there's also a really good documentary about Suzanne Ciani as well out there.
More than one.
Yeah. Laurie Spiegel and of course Wendy Carlos. So yeah, that's a really cool documentary. I'm looking up where it's on Metrograph.com is what you can get it for, and it's like you pay $5 for a month and you can watch it. It's only on there until the 20th of May, but.
Oh, what are they doing with it then? Is it getting broader distribution
I don't
or
know.
disappearing?
I think Metrograph just has these things on limited run and stuff like that, so I don't know what's happening after that. I would hope eventually they'll get out, get it to like on like, the standard streaming channels and stuff like that, but it's well worth the $5 to watch it though, honestly.
Yeah. I've noticed there's a trend recently. I mean, like Bright Sparks was like that, right? It wasn't on anywhere. I mean, it's on YouTube now. Having grown up in Minneapolis, there's a one about the hardcore punk scene in Minneapolis in the 80s, of which I was sort of part of that scene. And so it was pretty cool to watch that. But again, it's not a main service. You have to know somebody that tells you about it, and then you find it.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
There were some, I haven't seen the documentary yet, but there were some pretty interesting celebratory, I guess, streams and shows that were played in association with it that I think are still up there. Like Lisa Belladonna did one, and I've seen a few others too. So if you're out there looking for, like, I want more, I've seen this movie or the documentary, or I haven't seen it and I still want more. There is some sort of adjacent content to it.
And they actually have all that up at Metrograph as well. So
that's really cool.
And they also have like one of Laurie Anderson's concerts up on there because she narrates the documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's another series on Kate Bush and the Fairlight CMI that somebody did that's pretty cool. It's like I think it's a 4-part YouTube thing.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Chaos Engine must have had some fun at them SFX studios looking for the perfect axe through skull sounds. Like, try a cabbage. No, now try a melon. What is the perfect sound of an axe going through a skull besides an axe going through a skull?
I think you have to ask a Foley because they figured out a way to make it sound better.
I know, right?
Right? Yeah, it's bigger than life, right?
Yeah,
like,
I imagine
real gunshots aren't exciting.
I imagine the perfect Foley artist actually went and like rammed an axe through somebody's skull and was like, needs more beef sound.
It's actually like a meat tenderizer hitting a cantaloupe or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I were gonna do that, so I've done some Foley work, and I used to work in game audio, and if I were gonna do axe to skull, I would do a really thin piece of plywood, like 1/16 ply or balsa, and I would clamp it onto a cantaloupe.
Nice.
And I would mic that, and I would hit it. I would just hit it with an axe.
Wow. Nice.
There you go.
I think, and you'd get the crunch and the splat.
Nice.
It'd be great. If any of you haven't ever seen any of the horror movie sound effects design that has been done, or any of the Foley work for that, it is some fascinating stuff if you were into like grown adults like squishing beans in plastic bags, because there is
That's my fetish.
It's very funny, like some of the sounds that you have heard in horror movies are like the grossest sounds ever, and the most horrific scenes that have ever been put to film is like, it's like Brandon taking a pineapple and punching it real hard, or just like hitting some beans. It's very funny. And it will change the way. So I don't know. This either makes it better or worse for you, kind of depending on what your take is on it. But if you see some of these things get made, and then you watch the scenes where they're in, like, you will just like there's like horrible murder happening, and horror, like Jason's chasing everybody with the knife, or like some horrible scene is happening. And this grotesque thing is playing out, and all you can see is like a man with his hands in like a trash can full of beans. That's what you're hearing.
Or like
really
they're like throwing
reinforces-
spaghetti down.
Yeah.
Yes.
it reinforces the illusion. I mean, in the 90s, I was involved in some indie film projects, but I was doing like live production stuff. But once you start to realize all the components that are making up the illusion, it really starts to change the way you think about everything. You know,
Yes.
It's pretty weird.
Yep.
Yeah. More on the news. DinSync's replica TR909S is now available. So DinSync, I was looking at, because the link that was provided was an Instagram link, but I went to DinSync's website, which was last updated in 2018.
It's very modern, just like the TR909.
Yeah, so they're rebuilding 909s, yeah?
You can find demos on YouTube, but they're all like circuit boards without cases. But it sounds pretty interesting. It sounds spot on to me.
Yeah, so DinSync is one dude, I believe, or is at least primarily one dude whose name I believe is Paul Baker, and he has gone to exacting like extreme lengths to replicate. I think the 606, 808, and 909, and so. There was a very funny post, or I found it very funny, on Instagram the other day where he was weighing an original 909 versus the one that he had made, and they're like 4 grams difference or something. I mean, it's like, it's that close.
So wait, are these straight replicas with just modern components, or what is he doing?
They are as close to the original as possible. So that's the whole thing, is like, this is meant to be, it's not meant to be sort of like a clone or an update. It is meant to be like the thing. Just like if they just kept on manufacturing them, it is supposed to be as close to that as possible. So he's gone to these crazy lengths to source like that capacitor, and this, like, everything is like dead on. And so if you listen to the AB sort of the setups between them, they're, I mean, at least to my ear, they are indiscernible.
Wow.
And
but he's going the next step. Like, I used to have a Yocto,
yeah,
which broke terribly, and I think Glacial 23, I gifted it to him because I know he could probably fix it. But that was one of the issues. Was right, like even the clap was the issue with that one, because the original clap had broken components in it, which is why it sounded that way. They were stuff that fell off the shelf that nobody wanted.
yeah.
Right. So, you accidentally get this beautiful thing. And now, of course, our quality control is so high that you're not going to find a piece of garbage capacitor or whatever it was, resistor. So what do you do?
You just nudge them off the shelf. It's just like a cat does. You just like shove it and like make eye contact. I don't know how he's done all of it, but it is it's pretty remarkable. And so there's, to your point of just like seeing circuit boards and components and plans and everything. So it's a DIY kit if you want it to be, but there are companies also that are making them available. So there's another small company, I believe, out of Germany that's run by Andreas. I think his name is Andreas Kump, and it's called Kumptronics. And so you can order them pre-constructed. And they just opened up their pre-order list for that. It's one I've been watching for a while. So I don't know. They do an 808 and a 909, and the prices for them are pretty reasonable. I can't remember exactly how much it was. Somewhere in the neighborhood of like 1,500 euros.
Wow.
But I mean, that beats the hell out of the price of an original 909. And what you're getting is an original 909. Without any of the baggage of 40 years of decay associated with it, which is, I think, like, pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think to put it on the list, but Behringer released a new firmware update for the RD8.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So they're still working the bugs out of that one. I mean, that to me is more of an homage. I mean, it's got a lot in common, but it's kind of its own thing. And I think that's where they always end up going, even rolling themselves, right?
Yeah.
Just like,
So I'm just going to add that Paul Barker of DinSync is not Paul Barker from Ministry.
Yeah, I was about to say. It's like that. Paul Barker from Ministry puts out his own Eurorack stuff, though.
He does have his own. Yeah, he puts out his own
Yes.
synths, but he does with a partnership,
Mhm.
and that is not
Yeah.
related.
That is a good distinction to make.
Yeah.
It is. Speaking of Ministry, I found out some weird trivia since we're being tangential. It's tangents. In the neighborhood I live in, Chicago, I recently found out that Al Jorgensen lived in this neighborhood, which is not that big of a surprise. But even more interesting, so did Anton LaVey. And
Oh, that's awesome.
so did Edward Gorey.
A veritable who's who.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm in good
I think
company
so.
here.
Yeah.
I want a band with the three of them in it.
Get a shovel.
I just want one of those like 1920s, fur sort of coats that those guys would wear in the Edward Gorey cartoons. Not with real fur, of course.
Yeah. Weekend at Gory's.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's,
Was it the Ashley Crumb Tinies? Wasn't that the
Yep, the gas leak from Tony's. Yeah.
Gasly Crumb Tinies? Yeah.
Oh my God, that's great. So, Muff Wiggler is now called Mod Wiggler. Good job, guys.
This is like the gear
Gear Space.
Yeah,
gears.
yeah, it's
gears.
like the Gear Space
Yeah.
from Gear Sluts. Yeah, so it's same kind of thing. Over the past year, that's been a thing. So the people have been talking about changing the name and leaving behind like the innuendo-ish titles of stuff.
Did you read it though? Because I mean, it says that. Okay, so who knows? I don't know enough history, but like whether the double entendre was intentional, right? Because allegedly it was his obsession.
The Big
with
Muff and the
Big
Wiggler
Muff.
from the Harmonics, yeah.
But then of course all the subforms and all the other stuff on there had cheeky names, inappropriate names at times. So I mean, to me, like, how did that? Did it just? It's the same way I feel about the Gear Space thing, which is like sophomore
Mhm.
humor and sort of like, okay, whatever. And if you grow out of that, right? When this thing started, there were like little like blog forum pieces of crap, nobody cared
Right.
about. And then when you get so many users and, it starts to look kind of not good for
Mhm.
you. So I can see why they would do that.
Yeah, well, also like like typing in Muff Wiggler and Gear Sluts when you're at work is just like never a good thing.
Yeah.
This is a lot of uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear you. But I mean, a lot of people probably will criticize it for, attempting to sort of, be politically correct. But, I don't know. I don't think that's a
No,
bad
I don't
thing.
think so either.
And in this case, I think it's like, I mean, come on. It's silly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can make fun of it, but not really. Let's let's encourage women to be comfortable around
Yeah.
this. So
Yeah.
change it.
Yeah.
Let's be more
I had a
inclusive.
discussion with my partner about it, which is like, would she feel uncomfortable, like going, does that seem like the kind of thing where my take on it is, and obviously I can't really say but I mean, if you think that that's kind of the atmosphere there, would you want to go
Right.
there? I think that's kind of been how I would think about it. If you think you're going to get like frat boy, crappy misogynistic humor, is that somewhere I want to hang
Right.
out? Probably.
But I mean, at the same time, though, I mean, you kind of do in a lot of like electronic music stuff and everything. You do get the misogynistic shit going on.
No, agree.
Yeah, well, turns out misogyny is
Yeah.
everywhere throughout the
Absolutely.
time. So,
Yeah.
but we can try to remove it, and we can try to be better.
Yeah. It's very interesting. I don't know if anybody's ever seen this. The company I work for, we have recently undertaken a lot of I mean, it was actually sort of like started in the wake. I think we've always been good to people, but we really started taking it very seriously in the wake of George Floyd's
Mhm.
murder last
Mhm.
summer. And I think I probably underestimated the impact that words have for people. And not in the sense of like that I wouldn't have done something. Like I've never been resistant to making changes for things like that because like it's just I've never been a person who like anchors to things in any sort of place. It's just not how my brain works. But I was really surprised and happily so that, you know, when we even just started like making explicit the implicit for people, how much that matters to people who feel like they've been disenfranchised or who feels like their voice doesn't matter as much as somebody else's. And I really, you know, I'm kind of inclined to believe that small changes like this probably, you know, if you think about on the one hand, how does it make you feel from an inclusion perspective, right? Like if you have a group of people who say, hey, they're trying to make this more inclusive, that's great. You have that sort of group of people who I don't want to sort of classify as being on a fringe. That's not it. But they're sort of like, by the default of the population, they're not the middle 80% of that population because they haven't felt welcome there. Then on the other end, you have like the sort of like hyper vocal people who are like, nah, keep the name forever. Screw everybody who doesn't like the name.
They're too sensitive.
I think it sends an interesting message that's powerful to them, which is like, look, you can't keep alienating people. You can't keep being a jackass that's not cool. Let people come in. And from the two sides sort of like coming together, I definitely felt it, at least, you know, and it's a very different thing, of course, but the professional side of it, I was really very positively surprised to see sort of like how it pushed the sort of those two sides in a good way. So hopefully it works for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because there's a difference between, you know, being resistant to change, which in some ways is the definition of conservatism, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the being tone deaf enough to not understand the implications of, you know, what is actually being said, you know?
Well, even like Dan Kushner says up on the chat that one of them, I think it's Gearspace hosts official customer support forums for many manufacturers.
So does Modwiggler.
And Modwiggler. So, you know, having those names and stuff like that, you know, just says that ain't cool. And absolutely right, you know.
Yeah, imagine you're like a 15-year-old kid, right? And you're 15 years old, your parents are not into music, and they're like watching your internet traffic. You're like, you got something blocked or whatever on your parental controls. And you're having to go to your parents and be like, look, I know this synthesizer that you guys got me for Christmas is great and it's got some problems, but I just need to go to this Gearsluts website. Can you just help me get onto Gearsluts, please? The Net Nanny is not letting me do that. I would like some help seeing some sluts. It would be very beneficial to me. And I mean, like, I think about those kinds of conversations that people must have. Like, I don't know. I would never feel good about being a manufacturer of anything. And I don't know, like synth whores or whatever, like something like that just like felt like super shitty. I don't know. Just alienating and sexist just would not feel good to me.
Yeah. And it's just unnecessary. It's just, it's just dumb.
Yeah, exactly. All right, next piece of news is Sequential got acquired by Focusrite. That kind of came out of the blue, at least for me.
Not for after I just read that. Sorry, after I read that book, the history of Sequential book. I'm not terribly surprised because Dave Smith, I don't think really has it in him to be a business person. But the downfall of Sequential was that he handed it off to like, you know, sort of generic, cheesy business people who were really involved in his industry, you know, and that was the eventual, in my opinion, downfall of Sequential.
Okay. So, you know,
and I saw an interview today with what's his face from Sweetwater. And then again, I can't think of his name, was the American rep guy for Focusrite. And you should check it out. It's interesting. It's about 10 minutes, but it makes all the sense to me. And he's like 70, 71 years old. He just likes to make sense. You know, his company grew probably faster than he's comfortable with. And if you just like to make sense, why the heck would you want to do the day-to-day rubbish all day long? And I think Focusrite was a good choice. I mean, the way they've acquired stuff is they seem like they've given them a lot of autonomy to do the thing.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, is that like at first I was like, oh, that's going to be interesting. But I think that like, you know, the way that they've handled Novation you know,
Mhm.
and that I think that's been, you know, very good because it is, like you said, it is being rather hands-offish with everything and letting them innovate and everything. And I think that a boutique-y synth company like Sequential, which kind of it is at this point, with because all their
Yeah.
gear now is well priced, well over $1,000. They don't have anything that's sub 1K. So now we're entering more into like boutique / luxury synth. Is there such a thing as a luxury synth? There is now.
Yeah. The Moog One.
The Moog
Yeah, the
ones.
Moog One.
Okay, yeah,
You know,
Moog One.
and you know that kind of thing. You know, and
UDO Super Synth.
yeah, yeah. So
It's not luxury I needed.
So I think that would definitely add something to their portfolio. And because you got like everything that's in there now has different price ranges. Because like Focusrite is, you know, as a company itself with the audio interfaces, which are generally like low to mid price kind of stuff and everything. And then you got like the Novation stuff, which is mid to upper pricing, except for things like the circuit and everything like that. And then now you have Sequential, which is just kind of like, here's our BMW line.
They own Adam
They
Audio.
also own
too,
Adam
don't they?
Audio, which is
made-
also kind of like a mid upper price too.
Yeah.
They also just announced, I think it was today at Focusrite, that they acquired or started. I only sort of like skimmed the news, but like a professional installation audio company.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I mean they must be doing okay.
Yeah, they got their fingers in a lot
Or
of
these
places.
other companies must be doing really badly.
Yeah.
I guess it could go either way. But
Well, what do you think about that? I mean, technically, I would consider Sequential and Novation competitors on some levels. Like, I mean, that's going to be an interesting thing, right? At least in the terms of the Summit and the Peak range. I know that they make other stuff.
oh, yeah.
Because I know for a fact, having the Pro 3 and, you know, with the Prophet 12, which unfortunately was kind of didn't land as well as I think they wanted, I can see Dave still wanting to do like a, you know, like a vector wavetable synth. I can see that still coming. And if you do that, now you're in, you know, you're doing, I guess you could say though, but the Summit and you own the Peak, right? And I mean, it's got wavetable stuff, but it's the VA stuff that's like super excellent about that. And that's not really competing with Sequential.
Yeah.
I guess, right?
Well, I mean, it's difficult to tell really, and I think that it's, you know, even though the Peak is not a cheap synth, it's not a Sequential synth, right? And you know, Sequential has like this the whole handmade aesthetic and everything like that going for it, as well as the, you know, oh whoops, I'm deaf and I can't hear these waveforms correctly. Let's put out the Prophet 5.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, the new
I'm a victim
Prophet
of
5, yeah, now that they've been acquired, the new one's going to go on a subscription model. It'll be the first hardware subscription.
Dave
my
Smith
gosh.
just comes to your house and like kicks you in the knee and takes it if you don't pay.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
give it back.
It's the shakedown
Yeah,
model.
right.
Oh my gosh.
You got to pay protection money to Dave.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like that Monty Python skit, you know. Hey, you know, it's a real nice army base you got here. It'd be a real shame if anything happened to it, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No, but I mean,
as
Go
I say,
ahead.
they're still going to be autonomous from what I understand and everything like that. Dave Smith is still going to be, you know, designing synths, and Carson Day is still going to be Carson Day, and and you know they'll never fix the Tempest, and yeah.
yeah, I'm still holding out for them partnering with Oberheim and re-releasing an OB8 thing. He mentioned in this interview that they're releasing something in July, August, and then another thing at the end of the year. So I'm very curious to see what it is.
Dan Kushner says that Dave is going to be mentally checked out so hard. We saw him a few years ago. He was pretty with it.
Yeah, man. For all the tequila that guy probably drinks, he's sharp as
Yeah.
a razor blade, man.
He's sharp as a cactus.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I like it.
That's the right.
So yeah. Well, I hope that you know, good luck with that Sequential and Focusrite. I hope good stuff comes out of that. So the Ableton announces Loop Create, an online event for musicians. Now that's they generally do Loop, right? Isn't that the name of their event that they do every year in like somewhere in Germany or something like that?
Yep, I think it was called Loop, but that was historically it's of course been an in-person.
In the before
Yes.
times.
Before the Empire.
And, yeah, pre-apocalyptic. They did that in the before times, and it was I think I haven't been doing it, but the impression that I get is that it was sort of akin to Moogfest in sort of like scope and intent. And that could just be my ignorant interpretation of it, I guess, but it felt sort of like that. And then they canceled it last year and tried to sort of like do a stuntman version of it, which by all intents and purposes, from what I've heard, seemed to have gone pretty well. And so this seems to be the more codified, intentional version of it, which is cool. I'm really hoping that a lot of the stuff that we've seen that has sort of been, necessity is the mother of invention during the pandemic. I think a lot of it, some of it surely will go away, once we can get back together. But I'm actually hoping that a lot of it stays because it's created a lot of accessibility and access to things that people just didn't really have before. And it's created a lot of new ways of thinking about things. And I'm hoping that, this could represent that for a lot of people who would love to go to Germany and just can't.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that I know that Loop was a bit more performance centric in what they were doing, as well as like classes on like stuff with Ableton and everything like that. Moogfest was Justin and I went to 3 or 4 of them, I think, of the Moogfests. That was our annual thing that we would go and do a lot, and that's a lot more of like creativity and technology kind of thing.
Oh,
and it was
okay.
Unfortunately, it was also severely lacking in identity, even though it's called Moogfest, in that they didn't really know what they were doing.
Well, I mean, I think they had a vision. So, I mean, they would run the gamut from doing like a Werkstatt workshop where you would make something, I mean, I did one where you sat there and made a circuit on a little board, and that was fun. And the next thing you're going to, it's like they're talking about like Afrofuturism or philosophy, and the next thing it's like super experimental music thing that's like cymbals and contact mics and crazies. And then, all kinds of stuff. And then you're listening to, like Richard Devine talk about something. So it's like all over the road, but I think it had like and it was, on the Tobacco campus there, near, and it had this academic feel to it, I guess, And so it was really trying to do that, which is to try to be artsy, academic, but also have technology. And then I do feel like sometimes the shows were kind of, like that was the thing is like, and the comments that was made to me was like, well, what kind of, is this a music festival? What kind of bands am I going to see? Right. And the answer is yes. Right. Because like, I don't know what's going to happen the next time I come. It's not like a venue where like I went to Wave Gothic Treffen in 2019. I know it's going to be there, goth bands, right? Because that's why. Right? So, it's that same kind of thing. It didn't have that kind of identity. So you had to really be this group here. You had to be devoted music technologists for the most part. Or,
but I mean, at the same time, you would go like we went and like in the course of 2 evenings, we saw Suzanne Ciani doing like this like 16 speaker crazy soundtrack to the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari with like a flautist and opera singer and like all this crazy shit. And then the next night we saw Author and Punisher.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, all over the road.
Yeah, and then
and sometimes it's really good all over the road, and I think 808 State. Like,
808 State.
Year,
and we saw the Orb. We saw Psychic TV.
Yeah.
And then like.
So and we saw Kyle Dixon the 1 year. I mean, look, there's good stuff going on. I'm just saying you're right. I feel like, they did struggle.
And they also struggled on how to keep people moving.
Even though it seemed to be packed when we went there, I didn't feel like. I always felt like, gosh, are they making money here? Because if they're not, then this thing's going to go away. And
I think also they what they really suffered with is how to move people around, and how because we would go and sign up for those classes online, then we get there and they'd be like, nope, you don't have it, and that kind of thing.
Well, what it was is they would be like, "Oh, you signed up for the Class 1 Star. You still have to fight to death in groups
Yeah.
of 4." You know, like, you know, it's like, wait, what?
Here's your
You just
stick.
signed up for the death match.
Yeah.
That's all you did, you know. So yeah, and it sucks because I really liked going every year. It was fun, you know.
too.
Durham, where they're having it, is a great town. And we made friends, you know.
Yeah.
Granted, most of the people that we made friends with were people that we were buying expensive synthesizers from, like, you know, Enrique and from Novation and Mario from Electron and like those guys and, you know, that kind of stuff. But, you know, but then like the last one we were going to, I was sitting there watching a Modular on the Spot concert, and I look over next to me and Martin Gore's standing there. You know, and it was kind of like, Durr. Yeah.
How's he doing? Does he still have his band?
Yeah, from what I hear, he still has a band. I think I hope they hit it good
Good for
someday.
him.
You know.
I'll tell you, for a guy who's pushing 60, he looks great, and he can still wear jeans that I couldn't wear when I was 30.
Well, remember, Rich 60 is
What?
Rich 60 is poor 40.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah,
Money is a hell of a
it really
drug.
is. And then they gave him a Moog 1. Remember
Yeah.
that? They were like,
No, they gave him the Matriarch.
did they give him the
dude.
Matriarch? I thought they gave him the Moog 1.
He had bought the Moog 1.
Oh, that's right. So they
He was
gave
like,
this.
"I already
Yeah,
have
so
one
he
of
took the
those."
consolation prize of the
He's like,
Matriarch.
Take this
Yeah.
thing out
Yeah.
of here. I don't need another one of those. It's just in the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, we watched that. It was Daniel Miller
Yeah.
interviewing him for like an hour and a half, which was awesome. And at the end, they gave him the commemorative Matriarch,
Yeah.
and it was just like, you bet.
The Matriarch is so good. Mine's just like sitting here blanking at me, and every time I look at it, I'm like, I'm glad you're in my house.
Is it talking to you? Jeff,
Sometimes.
play with me.
It misses you when you're gone too, Jeff.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we're going to make it through all the news tonight. The last piece of news is that they announced the upcoming release of VCV Rack 2. Dun dun dun, where they're actually making it a paid. They're making a standalone version, a VST and standalone version for $99 now. So VCV Rack, the first version was free. They are doing a community edition, which is going to still be the free version of it. But they're doing.
Is it going to be open source or just unpaid?
It says that the source code and the builds of the community edition will be available upon each release. So I'm guessing that that's still going to be open source.
That's cool.
And then updates to the VCV Rack platform will be released to the community edition a few weeks before the paid version. So they're going to be like doing release candidates on there. And yeah, it's going to be GPL. Yeah. They don't have an announcement yet, but it's interesting that because we were talking about the VST edge of VCV Rack at the last show.
Yeah.
And I thought they had done it already, but apparently they did not.
I might have been confusing with the Voltage Modular,
Possibly, yeah.
which has both standalone and I think VST.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if anybody here, watching this later hasn't tried VCV Rack, you should try VCV Rack.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a great way to play with modular synthesis for free.
Yes.
Yeah.
VCV Rack was the thing that made me say, yeah, semi-modular synths are really cool. I like that. I do not want to build a modular case.
Yeah. And, it has advantages over a real modular like patch recall.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you can get that sound back. Good luck with your modular.
That's half the fun of
Yeah.
modular, though, is not being able to get your patches back ever again. Being
I
swapped
know,
into the black hole.
it's strengths and weaknesses,
Yeah.
but free.
Yeah, but free. Yeah, absolutely. It was watching.
That's a great way to export and figure out if it's for you.
Oh yeah, definitely. I was watching Sonic Talk earlier today, and our good friend Gaz Williams was talking about his modular and how he doesn't actually use it for anything except to play with it. He doesn't use it for songwriting or recording. He just uses it to play, and like that's kind of. I mean, I do that too. I don't really use it for much recording. like occasionally
Yeah.
once in a while. But Justin, are you okay? Did
Yeah.
you blow something up?
Yeah, I'm having power issues. That was real weird.
Yeah, I think for songwriting, your best bet with modular is coming up with good sounds and sampling.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I mean, I've seen some people do some really cool like musicality stuff
Yeah.
on there and everything.
Sometimes, like Jeff has.
Yeah.
Jeff's done some really good modular stuff. But for fleshing out, if you want to do a 3.5 minute thing, there's a really good chance you're going to wind up sampling
Yeah.
it and reusing it that
But, oh
way.
yeah, and there's nothing wrong with having your gear and just playing with it, and not like
Yeah.
recording and stuff like that. Honestly, I mean, I play with my gear all the time, so to speak. And
Yeah.
then I only record like once a year and put anything out. So
Yeah, I'm actually the
Mhm.
same. I'm much more likely to just play with my gear, and it's just for me. And especially when you're like designing sounds, to just go on these like this sonic exploration. Like this is what I do with my Behringer
Mhm.
Mini Moog. I just play with it and I just make sounds with it, and for like 2 hours, I'm just twiddling knobs and finding stuff. And it's a wonderful experience. It's what I call the joy of
Mhm.
synthesis.
Absolutely.
And I don't
Yeah.
record any of it.
Yeah.
And it's not on a principle. I'm just in the
Mhm.
moment, and it's great. And modular is wonderful for that.
Absolutely.
And you might capture some stuff like, I'm going to want to reuse this. I need to record this, because if you take a picture, you're still probably not going to get it back
No.
right.
No,
Yeah.
never.
No. But so your only chance is like, I don't record this now. This is it. This is as good as it's going to get. But it's wonderful, and it doesn't always have to be used in a finished product right from the modular, and it's its own thing, and it's a very East Coast West Coast philosophy thing, where with the East Coast is very musically interesting and very easy to use in conventional music, and the West Coast is so much harder to use in conventional music, but it explores new territory. It's experimental. It challenges you. So they're both equally valid and wonderful.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we have easy access to them for free.
Right?
Yep. It goes really along with an idea that, I don't know, I feel like such a dummy for having taken so long to figure this out, honestly, but I had this revelation something like 10 months ago at this point, that most people who play music either don't know or aren't honest with themselves about who their audience is. And I realized that I am my audience. And sometimes my friends are, but really I am my audience, and not in an egotistical way at all, but in the sort of like, look, I can make anything that I want to hear. Like, I am unabashedly my favorite musician because I'm making the music that is exactly what I want to hear at any given time. Like, literally no other musician in the world is catering to, hey, I want to hear this series of bleeps and bloops right now. Could you just play that for me, please? But I will do that for me because I take requests from me pretty much consistently. And I think that's like really in tune with what you're saying there, Christoph, is like, being honest with who your audience is. If you are Marty Gore with whatever that band is, I think people might have heard from him.
Depressed something.
Something like that.
Yeah, Depression Code.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, in that case, like if your audience is 300 million people, then you probably need to be thinking about things differently. But if your audience is a few people locally or regionally, and you or your friends or whatever, like you should really conceive of that differently and give yourself some grace to just like make what you want to listen to. And I think that modular and specifically West Coast synthesis and a lot of things there really can be very rewarding if your audience is you.
Yeah, that's how I feel about the sonic exploration. You're the one making these choices, and that's what makes it unique. Is that the decisions you're gonna be making are based on your tastes, and that's what takes you down these paths. And other people aren't gonna make those same choices, and that's the joy of it. And that's part of why I don't have to record it, because I already heard it. I had this experience, and there's like this feedback, because it's like it encourages you, and it's something that until you've done it, it's hard. Like if I'm explaining this to somebody right now that has never used a synthesizer, you might be thinking that's a bunch of BS because it's very abstract.
Yeah.
But when you're experiencing it, yeah, you are totally guided in this way. Writers talk about this when trying to get their characters to do things, and sometimes your characters refuse.
Mm-hmm.
And when if you don't write, you can be like, what? Just write them down and make them do it. And no, it doesn't always work like that. It's a weird thing. And for synthesis, even more so. You can, so much of the time I intend for something to go a certain way. It's like, I'm going to sit down and write a fast, happy song. And then just blatant misery comes out because that's who I am. And so it reflects your soul in that way. And this is the only way that we really live on, is that we pass on something that's inside of us in an unspoken way that other people will then experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can get there from lots of directions.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that's real wisdom, and I think that's good. I mean, I've been in bands, many bands in my life, and very often we're trying to either, maybe not super consciously, but go for a sound or try to fit into some sort of genre at various points. And then you have these epiphany moments at a certain point in your life where you're like, you know what? That's not time well spent. Time well spent is exactly what you said, Jeff, which is like, what is me? And if I bring something to the table that's a mishmash of things and that doesn't sound like what other people are doing, and I have no idea who the heck would listen to this but me, so what? It's totally you, and it's beautiful because it is totally you, and you're not compromising. And how people's workflows are exactly. I mean, I don't even do that anymore, Christoph. I don't even think I'm going to make a happy song. I just start noodling with something, and then if something comes of it, cool, and if it doesn't, whatevs. I mean, that's because why not?
So, and I will interject when Jeff was saying he's his favorite musician. I am not my favorite musician. These guys are still my favorite musician because Dwayne Cattell thought of things that I never would have thought of that were just so brilliant. And it's like, oh, God damn, I wish my... So,
I didn't say I have good taste.
Yeah.
Well, but
Yeah.
it is kind of true though, because even if it's not the music you're actually making,
Mhm.
your taste, your internal taste matrix, whether someone else is making
Yeah.
the music or not, is really what's important here.
On the other side, what I make, nobody else will sound like because I'm weird. And,
Sure.
So it's like I'm not trying to be someone else. Like I'm definitely going for a genre,
Mhm.
but nobody else is going to make the same choice as I am. So everything I do is going to sound kind of uniquely me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I'm deeply challenged sometimes trying to explain, some of the projects I've worked on, and I can't even often. I've been challenged with even trying to find like playlists to put it on because I'm like, I don't even know, and at that point you're like, well, yeah.
Yep.
What are you going to do? It is what it is.
So there's a quote, and I don't, it gets misattributed to John Cage, and other people, so I don't know who really said it, but it was writing about music is like dancing about architecture. Sometimes words just don't do it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It's
good.
true.
Or we're just bad with words.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
definitely that's definitely
Good
me.
with words can describe it well.
Yeah.
We're excellent with dancing.
I'm bad at all of the above.
Hey.
Well, this is the end for tonight. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Christoph. Thanks, Justin, for hanging out with me tonight and
Thank you.
chit-chatting
Thank you.
about stuff. I have to get up in 4 hours and get on an airplane, so I'm gonna call it a night, guys. So we're gonna raid over to Octonode because Octonode's cool, and we can go play with this fish tank.
Okay, great.
Which, that's part of it. He also does like cool synth stuff, but he has an electronic fish tank that you can play with too. Know what I mean?
Nice.
All right, so yeah, thanks for hanging out while we go off go off the rails here on tangents. Join us in 2 more weeks when we scrape together more news and become highly opinionated and disagree with each other about it. So thanks again for watching. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.
What? Why did I do that? I typed the wrong thing.
It says you're hosting.
I know, but I didn't rate them. Now I'm rating them.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, do that.
Yep. Yeah, we gotta do that here. Let me push this button here.